John Hopkins, John Grinolds, Chris Carter, and myself decided to go to Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains and do a backpacking trip on the Appalachian Trail. So the week before Easter break, Chris Carter and I started planning. We just really wanted to have a time where we could spend fellowship with good guys, just enjoy some of God's creation.
You know, it was obvious to see God working in it from the beginning. We started planning, we pulled up the Smoky Mountains website and realized that we weren't going to be able to stay in the shelters that we wanted to for the original trip. And, oh no, we felt really bad, but Phil and I just kind of scrambled it together and rerouted to another place and started looking at some of the other shelters and realized that we could, still have an adventure, still have a good time, but just wouldn't be able to go through that same route. And really that was kind of what allowed us to be there for this man. It's just really cool to see how the Lord works, even in the times that we just think that everything's gone wrong.
And it took us probably 2 or 3 hours to get up to 3 miles the Appalachian Trail on Friday, and it was exhausting. I thought I was going to die, but we all got there safely. On Friday evening, we got to the Spence Field Shelter on the Appalachian Trail, just a little bit off the Appalachian Trail, and we went to set up our hammocks. So we're going to have 4 hammocks, all strung between the same 2 trees, which is pretty exciting.
Then we started seeing these crazy thunderclouds coming over, and we had seen tornado warnings in that area, but we didn't exactly think it would hit us. And then some of the thru hikers coming through were like, you guys should probably come in the shelter with us. There's a tornado warning, and it's probably going to hit here.
So it was a pretty rough night, and the temperature dropped from probably about 55 degrees to below freezing. And that time it was probably right around 28 or 30 degrees. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up because I heard someone talking in our shelter.
About 3:30 or 4 in the morning, this guy comes busting in through the tarp, wide-eyed. It was classic horror movie scene, bust through him, lightning silhouettes him behind him. It's pretty epic. And he's like, "Oh, guys, I need your help."
He was saying, "My dad is on the trail. He's hypothermic. My brother-in-law is on the trail. He has a sprained ankle."
And so it was kind of surreal. It was a bit of a nightmare, I would say. In the next 15 minutes or so, people were scrambling all over the place. And I didn't end up going, but John, Phil, and Chris, and 2 other hikers, Fozzie and Fry, went out to go on a rescue mission. So from my perspective, it was not a whole lot of fun because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what everyone's status was. I stayed back at this lodge and I gave help to the guy who had come in.
So we head out of the shelter, and the first thing I noticed was just how foggy it was. It was so heavy. It was probably only 5 feet of visibility.
We started going off, and about 20 meters down the trail, Phil realizes that he has an ace bandage that could help the guy with the twisted ankle. So he runs back to the shelter, and we just continue on. And again, it's really cool to see how the Lord orchestrates all this, because just the fact that Phil was going to be staggered behind us really was what saved this guy's life.
As we're going down the trail, we make it about 1.5 miles, and we find the first guy. There's already a thru hiker there taking care of him. He's got him in a sleeping bag. He's really cold, he's really hurt, very scared. And the thru hiker that I'm with and the one who was helping him say, "You go ahead and find your friends. We'll carry this guy down to the shelter."
We knew that this guy was somewhere between our shelter, which is called Spence Field Shelter, and Derek's Knob Shelter. And that section of the Appalachian Trail is considered some of the hardest section through the Smokies, which is really up, down, up, down. So John and I started counting the peaks as we would go. We counted 1 peak, 2 peak, 3 peak. Phil hadn't caught up with us, so we assumed that he had stayed with the other guy to kind of wrap him up, treat his ankle and everything. And so just as the sun was coming up, which does not really mean anything, it just means that it started glowing a little through the fog. Visibility now got to like 10 feet in fog, some of the thickest fog I've ever been in. We see the shelter, Derek's knob shelter, and I tell you what, man, when I saw that shelter, I thought I had killed him, and it felt so bad.
And I was just praying that we could find this other guy, that the Lord would just reveal his location to us. As I'm praying that, I hear a grunt in a bush that I walk past. I've probably gone another 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles since the first hiker that we found. And I turn around and I see a backpack and just a pile of gear, which turned out to be the hiker that we were looking for. I shouted out, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm over here." I introduced myself. I said, "My name's Phil. What's your name?" He said, "I'm Brad." I said, "Brad, how are you doing?" But she kind of chuckled too. He said, "I'm cold, man."
It was just a really kind of distraught situation. And so, we ran into the shelter, yelling, "Hey, we need warm clothes, we need warm everything." And guys there were super nice. Like, they were so giving, so understanding of the issue. They gave me a down sleeping bag, a down coat, a jet boiled stove, and 3 liters of water. And I just threw it in a trash bag, and I was like, "Look, John, man, we got to get out of here. We got to battle back down the trail and find this guy." And he was just tanked, and we had really, really pushed it. It was like rugby training getting to that shelter.
So I tell Brad, I don't have much, but I have my body heat. So I just got on top of him. So after about 15 minutes, I start to shiver and I'm starting to get cold. So I jump up and I do some jumping jacks and get my blood flowing, stop shivering a little bit, and then get back down on top of Brad.
He was just really, really, tired. He was like, "Dude, I can't go on. You're gonna have to go on." So I just, prayed. I was like, "God, you gotta give me the strength to do this." I started battling back down the trail. I was like, "God, you just gotta give me the strength," because I knew this hill was shot up forever. And I just started up this hill and just kept going. And, I just expected to fail and keep, just be overcome with exhaustion. But I just, good Lord, give me strength to keep going up this hill. And once I got to the hill, it was not very far after that I see these trekking poles lying in the path, and I was like, how the heck did I walk straight past these stinking trekking poles?
After about another 15 minutes, I'm freezing, and I tell Brad, I'm like, "Brad, I have to find my buddies who went past you. They have so much more gear than I do. Their ability to help you is far greater than mine, and at this point we are just 2 lost guys getting cold." I get up, I put his trek poles across the trail so that whenever I return I won't go past him, and I move quickly.
And I look to the left, and there's this body in a sleeping bag. He's drenched, he's got ice on him, and I was like, oh my goodness, how did we miss this guy? I got to him and he was unconscious. Stage 1, going on stage 2 hypothermic, and stage 2 going on stage 3 hypothermic. This guy was about 270 pounds, and I was able to take his wet clothes off, stick his warm clothes on, get his wet sleeping bag off him, get him in that other sleeping bag, and I just spooned him. It was very intimate.
Get into the shelter and tell the hikers who are communicating with the rangers by cell phone where Brad is, what his condition is like. Tell them that because of my prayers I know that Chris is with them, which was kind of hard for some people to understand, I believe.
Eventually 2 hikers came in who were through hiking. This was probably 10 in the morning or so. Sometime in the morning, it was around noon. But we told them that some of our party were out on the trail. And so as they went on, we gave them our phone number, and they called us when they reached Brad. And Brad was being taken care of by Chris at that time.
I thought I didn't have long with him. I made sure he was a Christian. I prayed with him because I didn't think I would have much longer with him. He really looked like he was about to die, just really pale, really blue lips and stuff, you know. Man, it was cold. It was freezing cold. There was ice just all over the trees, and the wind was unreal. It was still really foggy. The wind would just come, shake all the ice off the trees, and dump the ice on us. And the ice would form again, and the wind would come and shake it and dump it on us. And so I was just trying to get all this ice off us, and I started getting hypothermia, shaking uncontrollably. And about 3 hours later, these two hikers show up just at my point of breaking. I was so close to having to leave. It became apparent that we were going to have to medevac this guy out, and we knew that there was a clearing, about 5 minutes walk from there, super close, but this guy was unbelievably weak, and so we just sat him up, got him onto our shoulders, and tried to half carry, half walk this guy to this clearing.
7 o'clock that evening, I saw the helicopter coming in over the ridges. You could hear it a long time before you could see it. And I looked up and I could see it coming down the mountain. And at that point, I was starting to feel better about things.
This helicopter came. This guy was a boss. Just came and landed on this 40-degree slope, got this guy in and took him off.
4 guys walked back into camp, and victorious. And that was probably the best part of the day for me, just seeing them back alive and back safe. It was not the whole thing was definitely stressful, but the Lord protected us all through it, and He gave us strength, and He allowed Phil, Chris, and John to really be a witness for the gospel to those guys and to the other people that we were with. And it was definitely it was a very enlightening first Appalachian Trail experience.
And we just kind of take it all in. It's just like we're in the Smoky Mountains, we're on top of a mountain, we're part of God's plan to help save this
If
guy's
shown up, he
life.
would have died. And if I hadn't shown up at that time, he probably would have died. So just how cool that God orchestrates all these events, just one after another, just like there at the right time. And even things that just seem really hard at the time, really not according to His plan, just really are in His perfect will. And that definitely, just showed me an aspect of God's character that I really hadn't seen.